You are listening to Blues on the Hill. You're with Baz, and it's Oz Blues time. Hard-working 2014 Australian male blues singer of the year, Sugarcane Collins, hails from way up north. But his raw, intense take on the blues is right out of the deep south. With a heady mixture of aggression and grace, Sugarcane's feel for the blues is intrinsic, his musicianship polished and his self-penned songs authentic. It's blues like it's supposed to be, personal, powerful and pertinent. He's a singer, songwriter, guitarist and recording artist raconteur of the highest order, melding an acoustic rootsy style with an earthy contemporary edge that will leave you in no doubt you are seeing and hearing the real thing. Andy Sugarcane Collins, welcome to Blues on the Hill.
Well, thank you very much, Baz.
Now, let me take you way back to 1974. As a 19-year-old, you were driving around in your car, surfing the radio, and you came across some music that has virtually changed your life. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, I think we're obviously referring to the Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee. Yeah, I'd never heard anything like it. So Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee were very big in Australia in those times, and just hearing that wonderful African-American voice and the acoustic guitar and harmonica, and I thought, wow, I've got to find out some more about this. And so that started my quest, if you like, to find out more about what I was hearing. And it was blues that I was hearing. So I started hitting all the record stores and buying the old-time acoustic blues artists. You know, everybody from Blind Lemon Jefferson to Blind Boy Fuller to, you know, Tommy Johnson, you name it, and all of them. And, you know, it's sort of spawned a lifelong admiration and passion for the old-time acoustic blues.
So that was your introduction to the blues, and acoustic blues, as you said, became your passion. I read you started playing your music in the waterfront bars of Cairns' Barbary Coast.
Yeah, like I started my solo singer-guitarist career in a pub called the Oceanic Hotel, and at that time that was the roughest, toughest, the meanest, the orneriest, the most funnest pub in Cairns. And the Barbary Coast was a stretch of pubs along the Cairns waterfront. So you had the pubs here, a road there, and there was the waterfront where they used to unload all the boats. So that's where the Barbary Coast was really where the kind of the live music scene in Cairns was at that time in the late 70s into the early 80s. And there was a roaring stretch of pubs. And, you know, some of the listeners who've probably been to Cairns would remember the Giants Blues Band. Well, they were playing in a bar called the Forest Bar, which was part of the Criterion Hotel back in 1982. That's when they got their start, and I was around the corner in the Oceanic in the little back bar with a little trio at that time called the Lake Street Sheiks. It was kind of like a jug band, hillbilly, you know, out of control kind of
great.
turnout. It was. They were great days. I mean, that was one of the things that I guess enchanted me about the North and made me want to stay.
Now, Sugarcane, let's talk about the blues. What is your interpretation of the blues?
Oh, well, look, ultimately, obviously the blues was the folk music of the African American community in the deep south of the United States. That was the blues. I mean, you know, there was no electricity in those days. It was all acoustic instruments. That's how the blues began, and it was very much a folk music. It was, you know, basically people writing songs about the incidents and the things that were of importance to those African poor blacks they were. So in most cases very poor rural black people. So they were basically singing the songs, telling the stories that were sort of part and parcel of their world. Obviously, as the years went by, and as when, you know, a lot of people left the South and went up to the North, up to Chicago, Detroit and places, a lot of reasons for that. We haven't got time to go into all that. And then the musicians ultimately followed them up there. That's when it first started to change. But look, Chicago blues in its initial form was Mississippi Delta blues amplified. And then over the next, 20, 30, 40 years, 50 years, whatever, it then started to morph into other things then. But as far as I'm concerned, the real blues is the old time blues, the old folky blues.
So you were talking about, you mean the Robert Johnson sort of era? You're talking about like the...
Well, Robert Johnson was the first person to really synthesise the early styles. I mean, he was the first blues guy who was able to listen to the records of Charlie Patton and Willie Brown and Tommy Johnson and Son House and all those guys. That's how he was like you might call third generation blues, because they still can't quite figure out who came before Charlie Patton. There's a name been thrown around and I just can't remember it now, but never recorded. So it's just the recorded history of the blues started in sort of 1926, you might say, with Blind Lemon Jefferson, and it kind of became a craze and evolved on from there. So it's a bit difficult to know, but Robert Johnson was an important part of that whole evolution, because it was Muddy Waters who also listened to Robert Johnson's songs, who took them up to Chicago and then electrified them all, and
electricity.
It all became Chicago blues. But my take is basically those old raggedy ass poor rural blacks plonking away on their guitars and plunking away on them magnificently well and singing beautifully, and that's where it all sort of began. Obviously, it had its history prior to that, and then it's been evolving ever since.
Absolutely. Now, we've talked too much. Time to hear you live. We've talked about blues.
Okay, well look, we're going to do one of the tracks off this album. This is a kind of a jazz blues, I guess you would call it. It's called Barron Delta Blue. The Barron River runs just a little bit north of Cairns, and I went north in 1978. I was 22, turning 23. I actually grew up in a place called Berries Creek, which was halfway between Leongatha and Merby North. So I was a country boy. And when I got up to the north, I took interest in the agricultural pursuits of the area, and that was sugarcane. And it was pretty spectacular watching those cane fires when they were lit up on those cool winter nights, and the flames would be leaping, 30, 40 metres into the sky. I thought it was a great sight. It had a melancholy aspect to it as well, and it was the inspiration to this little song called Barron Delta Blue. As the sun settles down on the Barron Delta, up in sugarcane land, I don't understand why I'm feeling blue. Gets under my skin in fresh water when the canes ablaze at night, the cool starlight, and I'm feeling blue. When I see the shimmer on the Barron River as the moon's rolling slowly by, if I'm feeling wretched coming through Stratford, I'll stop for a beer and get high. But I'm still feeling blue, but I'm telling you I'm not going down south again. Here comes that rain, and I'm Barron Delta Blue. I see the shimmer on the Barron River as the moon's rolling slowly by. If I'm feeling ratchet coming through Stratford, I'll stop for a beer and get high. But I'm still feeling blue, but I'm barren Delta blue. Here comes that rain, and I'm barren Delta blue.
Beautiful stuff. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That really swings.